We're back. Ladies and gentlemen, I have been trying to be a YouTuber for almost a decade now. And now that I've pretty much finished with my university thesis, I can finally put all of my time and effort into trying to make that dream into a reality. And I know that in my audience right now are many people with that exact same dream. They want to become a YouTuber, but they feel that they're unable to get started because of one reason: their computer. You know the ones, those cheapo office laptops that are meant basically only for checking emails, creating presentations, or looking at potato recipes without any ad block. Kids very often get these things as hand-me-downs from their parents or their siblings, and in a situation like that, you might think it's nearly impossible to start making actual, real YouTube videos. Well, to me, the most ideal situation is the one you make for yourself. If you or someone you know are stuck with a decade-old laptop that your mom gave you, and you still want to be a YouTuber, this video is here to help. And so, without further ado, let's go.
Okay, that was real!
First off, what qualifies as a real YouTube video? Obviously, you can just record yourself on a webcam or use an OBS screen recording, and if you have a good enough personality and talk about the right things, millions of people will still naturally come to you. However, I think that's quite a boring answer, and most people who think of YouTube videos will at least think of at least some level of editing. So here is what I set out to do. I wanted to make a concise, edited video featuring webcam footage, gameplay footage, narration, and background music. As a YouTube game reviewer, that is the bare minimum of what I need to do my job, and that's how most of my favorite videos are anyway. I also need to add images and text, but that's a given. What I don't need are fancy visual effects, transitions, plugins, or even sound effects for that matter. Those things can and should be seen as enhancers to a video with an already interesting subject matter, instead of just being visual flair that hampers substance. See also all those PowerPoint channels. And with all that said, here is what I need from my computer. I need a screen recorder that can record gameplay footage, I need a way to record my webcam video, and I need a way to edit that video without me wanting to crack my head open against a wall. That is it. You might be thinking, wait, that seems pretty easy. Well, that's because you haven't bore witness to the worst computer of all time. What do you think truly constitutes as a bad computer in 2026? One without a graphics card? One with pitifully low RAM? Or maybe one where the components don't even work? How about all three? Introducing the Craptop 3000, the most abhorrent dogshit computer I have ever known. In its prime, it was an Acer Aspire E15 laptop from 2018. It features a 15.6-inch 1080p display powered by an Intel i3-7100U with Intel HD Graphics 620, 4 GB of DDR4 RAM, and a 500 GB mechanical hard drive. This thing was exactly as slow as you thought it was. If I remember correctly, it took around 10 minutes to launch into Windows 10, and it was so slow that my mom couldn't even do her word processing and emails properly, so she basically discarded it. 8 years after its manufacturing date, the Craptop is utterly crippled by its issues. The battery holds absolutely zero charge. Unplug and it's dead. The hinge has broken, so I can't even close the laptop. The speaker is completely useless.
Fuck yeah!
I absolutely favorite this.
And to top it all off, the keyboard will spam random keys at random times, meaning typing is nigh on impossible. This thing in this state is unfit to do literally any task, but the internals are so bad that repairing it would be a total waste of money. By almost every metric, this thing belongs in the e-waste garbage can. So how in the living fuck hell am I gonna make a YouTube video with it? Well, it wasn't as hard as you'd think, but it did take quite a bit of legwork. By now, I think it's very clear that the Craptop in its original state was completely incapable of making videos, and therefore I knew that the first thing that needed to go was the operating system. Windows 10 is considered much better than 11, but for a mechanical hard drive, it was still ridiculously bloated and slowed everything to a crawl. Everybody, listen clearly. If you're going to take one thing away from this video, get an SSD. Most computers sold nowadays will have one, but if you're stuck on an older PC, that is your #1 priority, even above RAM. I don't even care if it's just 128 gigabytes. You can work with that, and you can even install Linux later if you need the extra space. Got it? Let's continue. Since buying an SSD would be a complete waste of money on a laptop like this, I immediately installed Linux when I first got this laptop 2 years ago. That is what we'll be using here. I know that for younger people, using Linux full-time on their main computer can be quite a commitment, but the great thing is, you don't actually have to commit. You can dual boot Linux alongside Windows, see whether you like it, and just delete it if you don't. The Craptop wouldn't even function without Linux, so my hand was basically forced. I tried quite a few distros on it, like Bazzite, Fedora, Mint, but they were still too intensive for that aging hard drive and pitiful RAM. Reading into it more, I discovered that desktop environments, basically Linux's different interfaces, greatly impact the performances of very low-end computers. And according to online users, XFCE was the lightest desktop environments that still had enough convenience for non-power users such as myself. So I decided to try out Xubuntu, a well-supported fork of Ubuntu using XFCE, and it was a great call. The boot speed and performance was better than Fedora with KDE, and about 3 times as good as when it had Windows 10. I could actually do things like browse the web and install applications at a reasonable speed. If you are still booting Windows off a hard drive in 2026, switch to Linux now. You will thank me and yourself. Next are the hardware augmentations, because almost nothing on the Craptop works to an acceptable degree. First is the keyboard. I took my old Dell Office keyboard from 2015 that came with my parents' old PC. I put in like 500 hours of OSU on this thing. It's a trooper. Second is a $10 USB wireless mouse from Logitech. I bought it to use in university because it's silent and I could play Bellatra with it. Third is the listening solution, which are my $20 Moondrop Quark IEMs. They're cheap and they're very good. Fourth is the $15 Logitech C270 webcam. The laptop comes with one that's supposedly 720p 60 FPS, but it's more grainy than 1985 UFO footage. And if you look at the comparison, it's not much of a difference either way. Fifth is the microphone, and I went with my phone. I'm holding it. It is a Google Pixel 4a 5G, and please remember to point your mouth where the phone's mic is physically located, otherwise it'll still sound like crap. And finally, the seating arrangement. I don't have much space at all in my room, but I did have a tall chair, my bed, and a Pikachu table. Put them all together, I'm a damn genius. It's way sturdier than it looks too. And with that, we are all set up, and it's time to show you what software I used and how. Something you might be wondering is, how the hell are you supposed to do screen recording while playing any game on these specs? Won't the computer just burst into flames? Well, as it turns out, dear viewer, that worry is unfounded, as developer Deck05aba has created the single greatest Linux recording software on the planet. GPU Screen Recorder is the name. I don't know why it has the CPU on the icon though. It records smooth, great quality footage with negligible performance impact on a 7th gen i3. It's unbelievable. Next is the choice of video editing software, and unlike GPU Screen Recorder, this was not so clear-cut. I've tried endless amounts of free video editors over the years, but when testing them for this, none of them could squeeze anywhere near enough juice out of the Craptop. OpenShot, Kdenlive, Shotcut were all way too slow for my use case. But then, the god of purpose-built Linux-exclusive software blessed me once again with Flowblade. This is such a good software for this particular use case. From my brief time using it, I thought it was kinda limited compared to stuff like Premiere or DaVinci, but it more than made up for it in the performance department. Scrubbing the timeline, adding footage, adding music and sound effects, it all was so quick and responsive, I almost thought I was on an actual computer. But then the 4GB of RAM kick in again and everything can freeze for 30 seconds or more. Just how it is. And finally, I used OBS Studio but only to record my face cam, and Local Send to quickly transfer files between the Craptop, my phone, and my PC via Wi-Fi. Local Send is absolutely legendary. It should be on every single one of your devices, and not just because the developer is a fellow Vietnamese. But now, we reach the most important part of them all, the games. I think a lot of people with crummy laptops already have quite a good understanding of what their machines are capable of running well, running kinda well, and not running at all. As a rule of thumb, you should only try to record the games that you can run well, because laggy, stuttery gameplay will hurt both you and the viewers of that video you'll be making. I'm sorry, but you're not going to be making an Elden Ring video anytime soon. In general, for Intel HD graphics computers, you have three options when it comes to games. Old PC games from 2008 and back, indie games with a 2D or retro 3D art style, or emulated games from consoles up to PS1 and maybe PS2. And hey, what luck! It also happens that these categories include some, if not most of the best video games ever made. I'll leave a link in the description to my preferred site to get game recommendations. And if you are a young person, please open up your mind to games that can be older than you are. Just give them a chance and I promise they'll pay you back in full. For the sample video, I decided to go with Super Meat Boy as my game, as I wanted something that was quick to play, easy to run, and simple to understand. I recorded at 720p 60fps at 5000 bitrate, and I saw zero performance impact, and the footage came out crisp and smooth as hell. So with all that being said, here is a sample YouTube video I made entirely on the worst computer known to man. Ladies and gentlemen, cast your mind back to the year of our Lord, 2008. This was the year of Grand Theft Auto 4, Metal Gear Solid 4, Left 4 Dead, I was 4 years old, and you were probably -4. See, it all works out. If you were a teenager at that time, Newgrounds was the place to be. That site was at the very cutting edge of nerd culture, and one of its most prominent contributors was Blue Baby, aka Edmund McMillan. His Flash platformer game Meat Boy proved to be quite a popular game, and as was quite common at the time, it was greenlit to be made into a commercial release, and Super Meat Boy would release in 2010 for every system under the sun. Today, we'll be taking a look at the PC version. Man, I am a big fan of The Binding of Isaac, which is another one of Edmund's Flash games that went commercial, so this game is like when you see it heaven. There's a good amount of stuff in Isaac that directly references Super Meat Boy, like Ball of Bandage, Cube of Meat, and Dr. Fetus, and it's cool seeing all these characters in their most primordial form. It's a great argument for pumping out a whole lot of games as a developer too. So when you run out of content in a new game, you can just add old shit, and then the audience will exclaim, "Oh my god, what a cool reference!" being fully oblivious to how much of a hack you truly are. Speaking of hacks, this game's movement makes me want to hack my head off. As someone who's spent years playing Mario World ROM hacks and not finishing them, I see that game as the very apex of platforming movement. Mario feels so great to move, he's like an extension of your arms and legs. Nothing before or since has matched up to how it feels. Super Meat Boy, on the other hand, has an entirely different and, in my opinion, worse approach. Your jumps are much further than they are high. You have a tendency to stick to walls when you don't need to, and the most jarring part is that you stop on a dime. Letting go of movement keys will land you exactly at the spot, instead of the character sliding slightly from momentum. This kills my muscle memory, and I had such a hard time getting used to it. There's also a thing where if Meat Boy lands on the edge of a platform, he'll actually move upwards instead of falling down? What the hell is that? If there was a random platformer stage and I had to pick a character to try and beat it, I would never ever choose Super Meat Boy. His movement is just so ass. You know what's not ass though? The music. This game's soundtrack is awesome. The soundtrack is energetic but also atmospheric, catchy but it doesn't get annoying, and sounds great even as a standalone album. I'd like to tip my hat to the composer, Danny Baranovsky. Well done, sir. Levels in Super Meat Boy are short, 15 to 30 second, self-contained challenges reminiscent of its inspiration, the game N. You can move quickly, you can win quickly, but you can die quickly too. It starts with just pits and spikes or whatever, and then they introduce saws and fans and turrets. I will say though, the level designs are top notch at introducing new concepts. I was never lost of an explanation even once. At the end of a chapter is a boss, but there's no fighting, it's just another platforming stage that's more difficult than the rest. I had the most trouble with the Chad fight, because of the stupid platform lip things and the wall jumps. It was just bad, man. Luckily, all my misery could be stored to be rewatched on the replay system. I do love this feature. It's kind of a great representation of the indomitable human spirit, trying hundreds of times just for a singular but sweet success. So, what's the conclusion to all this? I don't know. I hadn't finished the game, but hopefully you now understand that YouTubing is entirely possible on a 7th gen i3 CPU with 4 GB of RAM and a mechanical hard drive. That's it. See ya. You could tell I got a bit lazy because I didn't add the composer's picture or the outro music. I think you get the point though. Editing took roughly an hour as I was learning Flowblade's controls in real time, and rendering that 5-minute clip took 15 minutes. All in all, I think I did an alright job. So, in conclusion, doing anything on a slow computer is a matter of patience, tenacity, and creativity. As Orson Welles once said, the enemy of art is the absence of limitations. Someone who can make art that they believe in even the most restrictive of boundaries will surely blossom even further once those shackles are fully taken off. But if you don't feel like doing any of this tweaking or optimization, then consider getting a part-time job. I bet you can get a PC with an old i5 and a 750 Ti for around $200, which is 1,000 times better than the Craptop, and all of the softwares that I've shown you will still work and even better. Or you can just use CapCut on your phone. That works too. Thank you all for watching. Please leave me a like, a sub, or maybe a comment. I don't know. Yeah. Peace.